my real goal here is like, I want Swiss cheese Mars.
It would look very artistic, and Mars would also be completely screwed.
Goodbye, Mars. We're finally getting rid of the most overrated planet.
And turning it into art, worth it.
Welcome back, folks. This is Dead Planet Society from New Scientist, and we're your hosts. I'm Leah Crane.
And I'm Chelsea Whyte. In this episode, we're wrecking Mars. Why? Because we hate Mars.
We hate Mars.
We hate it. I'm not quite sure why I have such strong feelings about it, but I think part of the reason is that it gets so much attention. You know, I'm sure that's partly because we've sent rovers there and we know a lot about it.
Well, it is the easiest planet to get to.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. But it also feels like Mars is Earth's little sibling, and I just want to torment it.
I agree. I think it's pretty overrated, and honestly, it seems like we keep finding the same stuff there over and over again. Like, we know a lot, but most of it just isn't super exciting to me.
Plus, aesthetically, Mars is just not my vibe. If a planet's gonna have just red dust everywhere, I'd rather it also had a super huge ring or wild toxic clouds. Something that feels kind of dangerous and cool.
I think these are all great reasons to take down Mars. And we're gonna shoot straight for the heart, go for the iron core.
With a huge magnet.
One of our most diabolical plans, if I do say so myself. So we're looking at, where's the magnet gonna pull all that iron out? Is it going to slowly ooze out, or could it explode like elephant toothpaste, that science experiment we all did as kids?
Yeah, that's that stuff that foams up super quickly, right? You can see videos on YouTube of these geysers of foam.
Yeah, I hope it does that, because you know how I feel about explosions.
Well, let's find out. We called Robin George Andrews, our friendly neighborhood volcanologist, to talk us through how we can destroy Mars, magnet style.
Hi, Robin. Welcome to the pod.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
So we were just talking about how we hate Mars. So how do you feel about it? Do you also hate Mars?
I don't hate Mars. I have mixed feelings about it. Like, I understand why people do hate Mars and really love Venus, for example. Like, in the last few years, I've really been sort of pushed towards the more, like, Venus is more interesting kind of thing. But Mars does have an absolute bucket load of volcanoes that are super weird and so big that it like made the planet sort of tip over essentially at one point. So I can't hate it. I can't hate it. It's weird. It really punches above its weight, or at least it used to anyway.
Yeah, I suspect a lot of that is just because we know more about it than any of the other ones. But
yeah, Venus is shy, which is a problem.
Yeah. But as we do on this podcast with planets, both beloved and despised, we want to wreck it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when we were thinking about how to do this, my first thought was the soil is red because of iron. Big magnet, it feels like maybe we could magnet all the iron out of that soil.
I'm curious. So is the soil magnetic? Is that the kind of iron we're talking about? Like, if I took a magnet to Mars, a regular one, is that iron magnetic enough that I could pick it up in that way?
I don't think so. I think like that would be amazing. Imagine the sort of graffiti you could make with like just the rovers you send, like hugely offensive just messages just like left in the wake of the thing. But like, I don't think it's magnetic in that way, because we basically have that kind of stuff on Earth, just not nowhere near as much of it. And I think if it was magnetic, people would have noticed, sort of thing, you know. So I think it's just iron rich.
Yeah, it is like rust. I don't think rust is. I don't think you can pick up rust with a big magnet.
It's almost a shame, really.
Right?
So
that would be very cool.
It would be.
But a big enough magnet. Let's say we tried anyway, because you never know till you try. If we put a big enough magnet, it would start to affect the core, right? Because there is iron in the core.
Yeah, and it would be like, from what scientists understand of the core, from that one seismometer they sent, the core seems to be almost entirely liquid. So it would make a hell of a mess, because you're not just pulling out like a solid chunk. It wouldn't neatly like pop out. Well, I say neatly. It wouldn't destroy the planet as it kind of just popped out in a neat kind of way. You would all like ooze out quite violently. So you'd kind of trigger. And you'd be bringing this really hot stuff near the surface. So you'd just trigger these, like, apocalyptic eruptions as you did so, which kind of is way better.
Yeah, this is incredible. So that makes me wonder, like, first of all, if we had this enormous, magnet, like cosmic tool belt, it's, I don't know, moon-sized, planet-sized even? Enormous is what I'm thinking. And like one of those U-shaped bar magnet kind of things.
Oh, yeah. Classic. It has to be as comic as possible, right?
Very
we want to be
Acme.
Wile E. Coyote whenever we can.
Exactly, yeah.
But so then I'm thinking like, okay, well, where do we put it? If we try to get it like going around the planet, like orbiting, could we pull that stuff out everywhere, or would it have to be going pretty fast for that to happen?
I mean, basically, if you want to get that stuff out quickly, you'd kind of hover the magnet over like a giant volcanic province, because there's already all these weaknesses and cracks and things. And it would sort of come out like elephant's toothpaste, that would be pretty good. If you wanted to like really make a mess there, if you were just like really hating on Mars that day, you put the magnet somewhere where none of that is, because then it would have to like force its way through rock that is like otherwise been undisturbed, and you'd just wreck it and ruin it and crack it up, and you'd probably get an even more satisfying sort of explosive ejection of this molten core, because it's like under so much more pressure to stay inside. So depends how much you hate Mars on that particular day, I think.
I mean, for me, I would like to do the latter, please. The second
Okay,
one. I want to destroy it in the most spectacular way.
So all the things we're talking about are kind of assuming that we're going to put it in a sort of Mars version of a geostationary orbit. Yeah. What I wonder what would happen if we didn't do that and had it in just a regular orbit where it's circling the planet at its own rate, unrelated to the planet's rotation. Because I feel like that might be worse for Mars.
But wouldn't it be, that's what I was saying earlier, wouldn't it be, if it were just going like kind of lazily around Mars, wouldn't it just sort of tug the core and tug the core and tug the core like in a circle? Would it wobble Mars but not fully destroy it?
We have crazy tides and cracking.
I guess if we get it wobbling fast enough, it might do its job on its own.
I mean, if you have to be careful where you put it in orbit, because you might accidentally... Like, how do you feel about Mars's 2 potato moons? Do you care about them? Get rid of them? Oh, okay. Well,
we're going to put... I'm imagining this magnet being much closer to Mars than either of the moons.
Yeah, okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, if you want it to... Because you could just... Because if you cause it to wobble violently enough, it could just, like, spin off its orbit and just go flying sort of thing, which is a less satisfying way to deal with Mars than actually blowing it up, I presume.
I mean, it is. We get rid of it, but my real goal here is like, I want Swiss cheese Mars. Like, I want I want all of that core to come flinging out of it in every direction.
Like,
do we need more magnets? Do we need more than one?
We need more magnets. Yeah, maybe more magnets. If you could put 2 either side of it and spin them around like equally kind of thing, you could get some like weird washing machine like effect sort of thing and swish. I mean, it would just be a complete mess as well. I mean, but it would I think that would be the most satisfyingly destructive way to use the magnets, I think.
What do you mean? Like, in what way would it be the mess?
I wonder if we're going to end up bisecting it.
Yeah, exactly. Like if you split the core into 2 and then spin the magnets around on a sort of like orbit where they're always like, on opposite sides to each other, you could kind of not only split the core, but also like pull it out and like swirl sort of thing. So it would look really cool as well when you get this like liquid molten iron, which would then like freeze very quickly in space into these like weird coruscating like lines, these sort of curved lines you could pick up. So it would look very artistic, and Mars would also be completely screwed.
That reminds me of what we did last season with the moon, and we talked about sort of stretching it out and its core freezing and becoming a piece of art. This is in my mind, an even cooler piece of art. I want to see this.
You've got much more like molten iron rich matter to deal with as well, so you can just keep going for a while, kind of thing. And you could control like the strength at how fast it's coming out as well. It'd be very cool. Like what an act of interplanetary vandalism. It'd be very cool.
It'll be the second piece in our art collection.
That's true.
Oh yeah, a gallery.
Yeah, we're into a gallery of worlds.
Exactly. So then if we didn't do that, if we did it the other way, where we put the big magnet, just pick a volcano, like we put it over Olympus Mons, Mars' huge volcano.
Yeah.
And we just try to draw it out that way. I assume it would come sort of out. There's an exit point there. So come out, but would it crack a lot? Or would we just sort of suck it out like an egg for dying?
Wow. This
is a question about crust strength. Is the crust strong enough that it would come out an already created hole?
I mean, so the thing is, Olympus Mons doesn't just have a vent at the top. It's so big, it's ludicrously big. I mean, I think it's 3 times the height of Everest, sort of thing, which means that its crater at the top is full of old vents. It's not just one; it's many. So it kind of, honestly, the first thought that came to mind was, have you ever seen those hydraulic press videos where they squash things quite satisfyingly? You know what, they have that hydraulic press with loads of little holes in, and they squash things and it comes out little streamers sort of thing. I think it would be a bit like that. I think that's what it would look like, kind of thing. You just have individual streams of the core just rocketing out. But
then will we be left with a hollow planet?
Presumably it would crunch back in.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine it's hard to imagine Mars not reacting to its salt torn out.
Something's going to happen.
Something would happen. I mean, I think it's more probable that you'd create such disruption that the planet would just shatter, like an Easter egg or something, which would be great, rather than just fall in on itself, kind of thing. I mean, it would be hilariously unrecognizable.
For a while. I feel over then the next several billion years, it would probably reaccumulate.
Yeah. Would you call it Mars, though? How much do you hate
Mars
the name?
The sequel to Mars.
Son of Mars. But the thing is, which one of the moons, I think it's Phobos, has repeatedly shattered into rings and then reformed and lost some of its material over billions of years. At least that's what some people think. So but they still call it Phobos, I guess. So would it be
Mars?
It's a
ship of Theseus problem.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly it.
I think we call it Son of Mars.
Smars.
Mars Junior? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Now we have a special offer for Dead Planet Society listeners. You can get a 10-week digital subscription for $10 or £10, which includes unlimited access to our website and app. To learn more, go to newscientist.com/DPS offer.
And if you enjoy our podcast, you might also enjoy my free monthly space newsletter at New Scientist, Launchpad. Check it out at newscientist.com/launchpad.
We also have an exciting new event series launching in the U.S. Join us in New York City on June 22nd for a full-day masterclass exploring cutting-edge research on the mind and consciousness. You'll hear 6 talks from leading neuroscientists and philosophers about some of the biggest questions out there. When does consciousness begin? How does our brain create conscious perception? And what role do dreams play in our conscious experience? To learn more, visit newscientist.com/New York Mind.
The other thing I was sort of wondering about is what, we're putting this magnet around Mars. That's not in a complete vacuum. I'm wondering what would happen to the magnet. We're magneting out all this iron, but there's other iron and stuff.
I have this funny image in my head of the magnet, someone making a miscalculation and the magnet not being at least held in place enough. So the magnet just flies into the center of the planet and just smashes as it goes down. Because that could happen.
I mean, that is also another way to destroy Mars.
Yeah, that's true. So,
yeah, we'd have to be really careful with the orbit because otherwise the magnet would potentially go right through, which is equally satisfying.
That is pretty satisfying.
Why would it? You mean right through to the core or all the way through?
Depending on how much momentum it built up on its way into the core.
Oh, I didn't even think about throwing it. This is a projectile now.
Yeah, now this is basically becoming a railgun, right? This is a Mars-powered railgun sort of thing. So you could shoot Mars right through the middle with a big magnetic sort of projectile.
And then it would, I think because it's magnetic, wouldn't it pull the core with it?
I mean, it'd pull bits out. Yeah, it would be messy.
Now
Very
that I'm thinking about
satisfying.
it, even if we don't do this, even if we have it stationary somewhere near the planet and we pull the core out, the core is just going to wrap around the magnet. Like, we're going to make an iron moon with the magnet at the center.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That would look pretty cool. Phobos and Deimos would be like, just all jealous of this like new massive like
This
moon with a
bullet
magnet.
moon.
Yeah.
I do wonder though, like what Mars 2 would be like without any iron. Like, would it be strong enough to become an actual planet without any of that iron?
Yeah, does it need that core?
It could just become a very chunky sort of asteroid that you've just created, just flying off. Because it wouldn't even stay in the same part of... It would move to somewhere else, wouldn't it? It would migrate somewhere else in the solar system, so...
Right, because we're removing a huge amount of mass from it.
Right, so it'd probably become like a dwarf planet or something like that, or, you know, some moving weird object that we probably should keep a track of. You have to be careful it doesn't hit Earth eventually.
So like, we're necessarily... It's just going to lose its orbit? Like, so we pull out the core and it's much less dense and it's much less, has much less mass. And
Yeah.
So it's just, what is it, just drift?
It would definitely drift, but like depending on how much disruption you cause to like pulling out the core, which is like a really big proportion of Mars compared to other things, I think it would have to move somewhere. It would either be flung out the solar system, or it would like migrate somewhere else. It might just crash into Jupiter or something like that, which,
Okay, well, I do like that. Jupiter is the next on my list.
Yeah, no, see, Jupiter is a planet. That's the planet. I'm like, I don't get why people love Jupiter so much.
Hard agree.
It's the biggest and best one, guys.
It's ugly and filthy, and I don't like it.
It is a bit gross. And it's right next to another gas giant that has these resplendent rings that are so much more impressive than its own
Saturn's
puny little
right
thing.
there.
I know.
Saturn's the T-Rex of planets.
Oh, get out of here.
We can all agree
Yeah.
Earth is the best one, I think.
That I will agree. Earth is the
that's
best.
fair,
We
that's
have
fair. Earth is the best, yeah.
And Mars is the worst. Anyway, I'm wondering if we were able to do this without completely wrecking the planet. If we were able to do it like slowly over time, we put something in a Mars stationary orbit above some pre-existing vents and we slowly suck out all the iron. I wonder how much that would change Mars if we said that we're doing this sort of with surgical precision so as not to create maximum destruction.
It's hard to imagine, actually. It's already like a relatively geologically comatose planet. It wouldn't like change too much what's happening on the surface or anything like that. But I don't know. I mean, depending on how you do it, I guess stuff would like collapse inwards to fill the gap sort of thing. So
unless we fill it with something else.
Oh, that's true. What would you fill it with?
Jelly.
My instinct was like whipped cream. Make a jelly donut out of Mars.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. That
Some
makes
custard.
sense. Yeah, that makes sense. You can make it, I mean, you just fill it with like nougat and caramel to make it an actual Mars bar type place,
Yes.
And then get paid.
Now I like Mars.
Then get paid like billions and trillions in advertising, like,
I have a worse idea. Spiders.
I want to hear I want to hear everyone's ideas for what the worst thing is we could fill Mars with.
Yeah, listeners, please write in.
Spiders. Wait, but with the spider, would you trap them in so that future alien geologists eventually dig them up and they're like, gee, what the hell? Is that the idea?
I want to create a spider layer on Mars.
Okay. I'm just like, that really speaks to some sort of dark like instinct there.
I think that's my vote for worst idea, but best idea because it's terrible.
We're I already got the iron core. We're filling it back up with spiders. We're gonna see what happens.
Spider Mars.
Spider Mars. That's how we're gonna name Mars 2.
You could just leave an IOU.
Yeah, just leave a note.
Sorry, we borrowed your iron core. Hope that's fine. We'll bring it back. Really sorry about that.
This was one question we had. So I don't know if you heard last season, we had an episode about the space gong, which was our idea to create a shield that orbits Earth really fast and deflects asteroids.
Oh yeah.
And when we were thinking about the mega magnet, I just wondered, like, would it just sort of necessarily become Mars's space gong? Like, if it's big enough and moving around it fast enough, would it deflect asteroids and stop the planet getting hit by things? Or maybe catch them if they're metallic enough?
I mean, yeah, if they're metallic enough, it would catch them. And then, and that's a whole new problem of its own. You're just creating a bigger and bigger magnet kind of thing. But like, if it was going around super fast, it would, I mean, yeah, it'll stop anything getting to the surface, but it would have to be moving around the planet like so fast. It would be a terrifying thing to watch. Like, it would also, that would really confuse alien SETI researchers who are getting this weird like light curve coming from Mars, and they're like, what could it be? Could it be like some sort of space station? And like, no, it's just like the iron core that they're just messing around with.
Or could it be a planet filled with spiders?
Yeah, maybe. That's like Lovecraftian. That is like.
But I also think that the fast orbiting magnet that picks up all the stuff that comes by, it might be a slow way to go, but I think over time it will just accumulate more and more things, and then Mars has something really terrible to contend with. Like, right? Like, won't it sort of just smash at some point?
Yeah, eventually it would become so massive that it would just they would just crash into one another, sort of thing, presumably. So, or it would fly off.
It would fly off and wreak havoc.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, surely the best use of Mars's iron core is to then use it to shoot through another planet you don't like.
Oh, yes.
You're absolutely spot on.
Incredible.
That way you still get the spiders. You can still fill Mars with spiders. But then you get to like railgun another planet. So, you know, it's pretty useful.
We're going to have to do some math and see what density of spiders we're going to need to get to fill Mars. Like, how heavy are all those spiders going to need to...
That is... I must know this.
You'll be delighted to hear that I have done the math on Spiders Mars.
I am.
So prior warning, these are all rough approximations. But if we want to replace Mars's core with spiders without ruining the planet, we want to keep roughly the same density. And also I wanted it to be maximally scary, so I've used brown recluse spiders.
Venomous spiders Mars. Horrifying.
Yep. So to match the density, we're going to need about 9 spiders per milliliter of core removed. So about 9 million spiders per cubic meter. And based on the most recent estimates of the size of Mars's core, that's a total of about 220 million billion spiders. You're welcome.
Thanks. I hate it.
And thank you all for joining us for Dead Planet Society. If you want to catch up on previous episodes, head over to newscientist.com/deadplanets. And this season, we've got a lot of great spider-free stuff coming up for you. Look forward to new episodes every other Tuesday right here in the New Scientist feed.
We've also recently had some fantastic listener emails come in. Mark from California wrote in with an idea for another way to create more eclipses, which we talked about a few episodes back. He suggests that we could simply move the moon.
Yeah, so he mentioned the moon doesn't orbit in the same plane as Earth orbits the sun, but if we shifted it a little bit, we could get an eclipse at every new moon. And he suggests that we install thrusters on the moon to move it slowly enough that we don't break it apart during the move. Easy peasy. Great idea, Mark.
Yeah, we're going to need to invest in some more enormous rocket thrusters. If you have any other ideas for how we can tinker with the universe, let us know, and they could be featured in a later episode of the podcast. Our email is deadplanets@newscientist.com. Bye!
I feel like we've been derailed by spiders, and I apologize.
I think we got to a really great place, honestly.
I think so.